Every book has a moment before the page. A decision, a risk, a story worth telling. This is Authors After Action. Conversations with authors about the journey, the work, and the lessons learned along the way.
Welcome, everybody, to Authors After Action. I'm Don. Hey, I'm excited. Today, we have got Miss Irwin, Tina Irwin. Tina brings a rare and compassionate perspective to the unseen side of life and death. She teaches the living how to help the dead, explaining what truly happens after someone passes and removing fear from confronting spirits. Through her work, she opens a door of understanding and mercy for both those who have crossed over and those left behind. Tina offers practical tools for helping souls no matter how long ago they died, how they died, or even whether you knew or liked them. She also guides the living through grief in the most painful forms, including suicide and murder, accidents, and the death of a child. Just as powerful, she prepares people for their own passing, helping them face death with clarity and peace. Her work transforms fear into compassion, confusion into understanding, and loss into connection. Welcome to the show, Miss Irwin. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me. I really love being able to share these things with people.
Yeah, I had a podcast that's been going on 4 or 5 years now, and it's just a broad podcast. I used it for therapy for myself. It got me telling my story, and it was called Spirits with Stories with Donald Dunn. And I created these because since then I have also became an author. I've wrote 3 or 4 books now. And I think it's important that we dig into, the stuff that happens behind the scenes. The content just doesn't make itself. And it comes from an idea all the way into somebody actually publishing, writing, and telling their story. So what brought you into this world?
In 2003, my 6-year-old niece sat on the sofa next to my sister, and she said, "Mommy, I feel hot." And she died right in front of my sister.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of those shocking, stunning things. I'd only had a cell phone for 5 days. I didn't even know how to use it. And my youngest son was with me, and he drove me home. I was at the grocery store, and because my sister said, Ariana hasn't taken a breath for 2 hours. What do you think is going on? I'm thinking she's dead, but my mind rejected the reality of the moment.
Yeah.
And you really feel at a loss for words for that at that point in time. And I have an odd skill, and there's a lot of discussion about remote viewing, but I can remote view. So I remote viewed and found my niece, who had no intention of ever going back in her body. And she said, "Aunt Tina, I'm done. And I'm just going to hang out here with, my sister." And that she didn't, when you're 6 years old, you don't understand the concept. I'm just going to hang out here as a ghost with my sister. And as she's telling me this later, I matched up that my niece, who was 3 years older, could feel Ariana's arm around her shoulder. She could feel her being close, or around her waist, or that she was next to her. And I realized that this was a bad situation. She had group A strep, although it took the coroner 3 or 4 days to figure out what causes child's death. Her body was in such pristine, perfect condition, not a mark. I mean, everybody was quite baffled, but group A strep can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere. And I did talk to a pediatric coroner, if you can believe there is such a thing. And he said, we see this and there's no rhyme or reason. And in his view, which I thought was really fascinating, he said, sometimes it's just that person's time to leave, even a child. And so I was in California, I flew to Virginia Beach, and you walk into the house where a child has died, and the family is in shock, and the family
Yeah.
that you knew the day before no longer exists. Everybody has changed, everything has changed, the entire emotional relationship dynamic has changed. And as I'm watching all of us go through these motions of what happens after a death and the people we encountered, I realized that no one has a clue what to do after someone dies. And I did cross my niece over. I brought in an angel and I watched her, cross into the heaven world. And her grandfather met her. He had died about 2 years prior. And it was the most glorious reunion because her grandfather dearly adored children. So it was that the reunion was really happy. And it helped me to understand that, and I, not like I didn't know this already,
Yeah.
this death is just, walking through another door.
Right.
And we discovered we had to help people with their older grief as they watched us grieve. All of their grief came rushing back to them in that moment of remembering when it happened to them. And I realized that when you're grieving, you go, "Why are you telling me this?" But that person doesn't know how to empathize with you
Yeah.
without explaining, I have some understanding how you feel because blah, blah, blah happened to me.
Yeah.
And that means that even though your heart feels like it's just shattered on the floor, you still have to come out of yourself and find that soul of compassion to allow these people to embrace you with their compassion. And it changes you, I would like to think, in a very good way. And after that, I realized I needed to write down some of these thoughts that are a little bit outside of the norm when it comes to grief. So that's how I got started. The Lightworker's Guide to Healing Grief, which looks like this, was my first book.
Okay. It is like the world is really, the universe is kind of telling me things because um I have just recently joined up with a team that's helping veterans spiritually, and I do not, I do not have any gifts as far as any of that stuff. I'm just a guy that's really good with computers and podcasting and stuff like that. And the work that they're doing is truly amazing. But I have had the universe speaking to me about what is happening out there, and I've learned quite a bit these last 6 months or so as far as and what you're saying is spot on. I mean, I believe, I refer to cemeteries now as just the human junkyard. That's just where our car goes to die and our spirit moves on to its next you know vehicle that it carries on when it comes back to learn more lessons and so forth. I don't consider us anymore as far as our bodies being who we really are. And what you said when you spoke with, you said it was your granddaughter,
My niece.
your niece. Man, she was so young, and the way she said, "Well, I think I'm just going to hang out here for a while." That's years past the way somebody at that age would speak, and it just tells you the intelligence that lives within our consciousness. So it's awesome work. And again, we could get into to remote viewing as well too, and
Oh, yeah.
you know that's a whole nother, it could take you down conspiracy paths and everything. But the end result is the money that was spent by the government, pursuing that and learning that would have never been spent if it wasn't something that was actually possible and being done. So
Oh,
I
it is absolutely possible.
yeah, I agree 100%. I'm convinced that our consciousness is not trapped into our vehicle, our bodies.
Well, if you ever wanted to do a show just about remote viewing, that also takes us down this absolutely fascinating road of quantum entanglement and
Hmm.
string theory, because this is the easiest example to use of those physics concepts.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So I know when I wrote my first book, I think, and a lot of authors can relate to this. You know, you just don't know what you don't know, and I completely did it wrong. I was that guy that would write a few pages and then go back and edit those pages, and then write a few more pages and go back and edit those pages, and it made the first time of writing very painful, because what I didn't know was when you go back and edit, you're going to change things, and it's going to change the flow of things that are coming and so forth. And that doesn't matter whether it's fiction, nonfiction. What was some of the things when you decided to sit down and write your book that you learned as you were going on?
I I had been writing various things on and off. I've written 400 blogs. So
Okay, yeah,
I I've been writing a long time, and I just sat down and built a contents. A lot of people build an outline. I just start with a table of contents
yep.
and just write them in. And then as I'm writing, I couldn't write fast enough.
Oh
It's as
wow,
if I was getting this spiritual download of information to write, and I'm writing and writing and writing, and I'm writing about all of the kinds of griefs. That's why this grief book is very different. If you It's not just about the physical death of someone you know or love or hated or despised. It's about you lost your job, your car is wrecked, you lost your legs in a car accident, your grandmother doesn't recognize you anymore, your mom or dad don't recognize you anymore, but they still are in bodies.
yeah,
And when you go through a divorce, the grief of love betrayed is staggering.
yeah,
And this book talks about how to address a myriad types of grief. It describes what happens after death. It describes how to help someone through the dying process. It has a series of prayers in the back to help someone to cross over. You shouldn't have to pay a medium to do that. I'm a big advocate of the feeling that you should have a personal private relationship with God and be able
yep.
to do that spiritual service for someone you love, or the ghost you meet that came home with you, which has happened to me more than once. What I learned was that it's just so much. Then I had several people read it, and then I had my daughter read it, and she said, "Do you mind if I help you a little bit?" So she took out every single table of contents topic, put them on stickies, and completely reorganized the book. So it had this beautiful flow.
Hmm.
And she did such an amazing job, because she said, "What you have is great, Mom. It's extremely readable." I also had 15 different people read it. I took all of their suggestions, balanced and incorporated them. Like one woman said, "Well, you forgot me." And I said, "Okay, what did I forget?" "I lost 6 relatives in 8 weeks. You didn't cover multiple death." And I said, "I'm so sorry. I will make sure that I do cover multiple deaths."
Yeah,
And it was very, very moving, because you can have an entire family die just like that. House fire, car goes off a bridge.
yeah,
All of a sudden, you have 6 people to grieve. So and people say, "Oh, well, that doesn't happen very often." If it happens to you, it doesn't matter how often it happens.
you're right.
So after that, then you have to buck up your courage and decide it's finished. That's another really hard thing for authors. Is it done? Yes, it's done. Now what? So I had to accept that now it's done, and now what's the next step? And
Yeah,
in 2008, it was finding a publisher, because in 2008, although Amazon was doing print on demand, it wasn't it was really hard to do that.
yeah,
And 99% of authors weren't doing that. So
yep.
you really had to find a publisher. So and I did find a publisher, and I had a contract in 24 hours, because they said the book was so well written and so complete. And I worked with them for a few edits, but that was about it. And
Wow.
then it was published.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that, and even in today's world, one of the things, like I said, I own a media company, so I deal with this with the podcasters that I work with quite a bit. But self-publishing and going through a publisher is a give and take, right? You can go through a publisher if you can find one that's willing to publish your book, but you're going to give up a little bit of revenue and maybe even some creativity freedoms, but the reach is going to be tremendous, and the power that they have as far as getting your book out there and people see it. You can self-publish and have 100% total control, but now you are the marketer, you're the author, you're the publisher, and it makes it very difficult. And then you find out really quick how small you are in this universe, because your reach is very, very small in comparison to some of these bigger publishing companies. So even today, even though it is more available, I still think it's a give and take, and I don't think either way is wrong, but there is a double-edged sword to both sides.
That's very true. There are a couple of things that I think when people look for a publisher, because I don't want to be bothered with self-publishing.
Yep.
Way too hard, too much marketing and the formatting. I can't do it.
Yep.
So my publisher was the Association of Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach, the ARE, Edgar Casey's ARE. And they only published 6 books a year. And I was one of the books, and it came out in 2009.
Wow.
And they give you an advance. So I got a $2,000 advance, a standard contract. And I negotiated my royalties, which they'd never had anybody do before. And they only printed 2,000 copies. Once all the copies were sold, they were never going to print it again. So that was the reach.
Yeah.
It just stopped. And they only market your book 6 months. That's it.
Wow.
That was not okay for me. And so I did 2 things that had never been done before for them. I wanted them to put it on Amazon. They said, well, we don't do that. And I said, well, why don't you do that? So they did it. I was their very first author. And then after that, I realized that I am going to do Kindle, and audiobooks hadn't come out yet, but I thought, I want my rights back. They're never going to publish this book again.
Yeah.
I believe in what I wrote. So I sent them a letter. I had a very good relationship with them. Said, I want my rights back, all of them, including the Amazon rights, which they did not want to give up, but they did. And I'm meticulous about that letter because it gave me my rights back, which I had to prove to Amazon.
Yeah.
I went on to make that a Kindle book myself. I also made it an audiobook, and I've recorded 9 of my own audiobooks with my own voice and worked with Audible and gotten them all uploaded. And yes, I have to market them myself.
Yep.
And I don't receive thousands and thousands of dollars in royalties a year. Most authors don't receive anything.
You're right.
But I receive something every single month, and my books are sold all over the world. I get royalties from New Zealand and Australia and UK and India and Japan. I mean, I'm amazed where this book is being sold.
Yeah.
So I am a huge fan of self-publishing. You got to be pretty tech savvy to do it.
Yep.
But you have more control. Now, there are some publishing houses that will take someone who's already been self-published, and then they handle it. And there's one particular publishing house that I will not say on air, but that publishing house has never paid a penny in royalties. And every single person I know who published with them, they lost all rights to their book, and they never saw a penny. So
Wow.
Some publishing houses like the Edgar Casey Center are extremely honest. Some publishing houses are not. Do your research first.
Yes. Yes. And it became relevant to me when I first was going to go down that route when I wrote my first book. and I started reaching out to places, and if you do a quick search, you better start on page 3, because the first 2 pages are nothing but, you paying them to do your book, right?
That's exactly right. It costs
And,
you.
oh yeah, $5,000-$6,000. I mean,
Oh yeah,
it's unreal.
it
But
is.
again, you're not going to see no royalties, because your contract is they're going to produce a book and they're going to publish it,
Right.
and they're going to take your money plus whatever revenue it makes. So it is important to if you're going to go down that route, to one, learn the industry, and you did a tremendous job. Most people don't even try the to go to the Audible side, and they're missing a market that is
Huge market.
huge. Yep.
Absolutely huge market.
Yep.
And I got to tell you, because I can do it, I can say I don't think it's that hard. But, you know, if you can train, you can learn. I watched a ton of videos.
Yeah.
I had to learn how to use Adobe Audition. It's the
Yep.
best platform for recording, and you get your books accepted by Audible, and the software that they have is amazing. And when you work with Audible, their upload software is straightforward, easy to understand. I am really impressed with the software for Kindle. It's been super streamlined. You can do this yourself.
Yep.
It's I have to say there's a lot of detrimental things said about Amazon, but I have found, and I was a beta tester for print on demand and Kindle and Audible for Amazon.
Okay.
So, I started in 2010 with them, and I'm reasonably, modestly known as somebody who just just keep at it.
You know, but again, that's what it takes. Like you said earlier, authors in today's world, I would say those numbers are pretty high too. 95, 96% of the people that write, they write because they're passionate about the topic or the story that they're writing. It isn't about the money. They almost everyone that I've had on my show pretty much say the same thing. Well, it would be nice if I could do this full time. I really enjoy doing it, but you still got to pay the bills, and writing doesn't do that for me yet. They all say that, and it's true. I've probably made less than $1,000 from all my books total. But that's not why I wrote them. I wrote them because I wanted people to read them. I can't count how many times somebody wanted the book but didn't either want to buy it or couldn't afford to buy it, and I gave it to them.
Right.
Because it was more important for me to have that person read it than it was for the $3 or $4 royalty from them purchasing it. Let me ask you, when you was writing your book, and you was going through the process, did you journal some of the stuff that happened before, and you use that as your notes, or did, like you said, did all this just come to you?
It came pouring through.
So
I just had so much information. I literally couldn't write it down fast enough.
So it's funny that you said that. And the reason why I went back and asked that was I just had a guest on one of my other podcasts. He is now a shaman, but his wife was having lucid dreams from Native Americans, and they were teaching her how to cross souls over. And him and her was doing this on their property. I guess the house that they built was on a Native American burial ground, or in the proximity. And she passed away, left him, and she was the main person doing this. And since then he is, continued to do it, but he wrote a book about it as well. And he said the exact same thing you just said, that, it wasn't about his knowledge. It was like a spiritual guide was helping him write that book, because it was just, here it is, put it on paper, and it's funny how you both said the same thing.
Yeah, I would wake up, and I used to keep not a journal, but I keep a piece of paper by my bed, and I wake up and they'd say, "You need to say this. You forgot this. Go
Hmm.
back and make this. Add this. Add this. Add this." And I mean, we've done this 9 times. And they do it every time, so
Yep.
that enables that enables me to feel like I'm doing the work that somebody wants done.
Yep.
And another reason I wrote so many books was because people would say, I wish I had a book that you'd written about this." And I go, "Well, I've got this one." Or, I'd like to understand karma better. And I said, "Well, I had 3 books on karma."
Yep.
And so it enabled me to just hand somebody something. And somebody asked me the other day, they said, "So and so's going into this difficult time." I said, "Well, why don't you send them an angel?" And she said, "Oh my gosh, you can do that?" Well, I have a crossing over prayer book, 88 prayers, and one of them is number 57, how to send angels to another person. And so instead of me having to spend hours explaining it,
Yeah.
here's the book and it explains it on this page. Go for it.
Yep.
And it was, I still have a lot of private clients who have unusual spiritual problems.
Hmm.
And a lot of times it's very helpful to be able to say, purchase these books because we're going to be referring to them. I also refer them to additional authors
Yeah.
in their spiritual journey. You shouldn't just read one person. You should be reading this beautiful mosaic of information by some amazing authors who are out there now.
Yeah. And I think too, this is just the right time, right? It seems like people in general are becoming more open-minded and accepting that there is things out there that are just not able to be explained in everyday science terms like what people think. And I think that is also helping as well. The other part of this that I have learned, what you just said is just 100% spot on. It is extremely important that you're reading other people's books because not everybody that has these gifts, two people have the same gifts may not interpret things the same way. One person may be able to sense things with smell. Another person may be able to see things. Sometimes it's images, and all of those different methods come in, and you never know how a guide or a spirit's going to speak to you. It may be energy work. It may be in your dreams. My mom just recently passed away, and I have dreams quite a bit of her, and they're not about her. They're dreams that I'm having that she just kind of pops in and doesn't say nothing. She's just standing there. And so I know that that is a way of telling me, look, I'm still watching. I'm still checking on you. You better do the damn dishes.
Well, but you know what you might want to try is the crossing over prayer for her.
Okay.
Because if she's coming that frequently, it's very probable she did not cross over.
Okay.
And it's on my, I have a couple websites, but one of them is ghosthelpers.com, and the crossing over prayer is on the front page. It's absolutely free. And anyone can say it for a loved one or for a battlefield or a cemetery. It
Okay.
doesn't matter. It works in a variety of ways. So it's a very compassionate thing to do, because a lot of people, either they don't know they're dead or they don't know what they're supposed to do next. Even if they went to church, ironically, a lot of people who go to church have no idea what to do when death comes.
Yeah.
So it's a spiritual service. And I think for a lot of people who are writing books about spirituality, it really is the service of having it out there that means a great deal to them. It certainly would be true for me.
Well, I will definitely take a look at that today, and I will also make sure that we add this link into the notes and everything to make it easier for other people to find it as well. I kind of want to move into towards the end of our topics here, and I want to talk something just a little bit of fun. This latest book that we were just now talking about that you published, if you could sit down with somebody to discuss your book, alive or dead, who would you like to sit down with?
Um, I'd sit down with Christ.
That is a good one. I've never had anybody say that. That is awesome. Yes.
Because if you're a spiritual worker and you have the opportunity to sit down with a being of that caliber, and you could actually be in his presence because the frequency is so high, then you might be able to get some pointers on, are you doing your spiritual job in accordance with and in alignment with the greatest good?
Yeah.
How could you do a better job at your job?
Yeah. Yeah. I've had people say some really strong human people. And what you said is the best answer, because if you ever wanted to learn more about anybody else, that's the one person that could tell you about anybody out there. And if you're doing it right, which is the most important part, in his eyes, way more important than talking to Benjamin Franklin or George Washington or any of these other people. So yeah, absolutely. That is awesome. I'm really surprised more people haven't said that. So yeah.
Well, I mean, if you believe you have a spiritual mission and you have a deep and abiding love and faith in the power and the wisdom of Christ, and you understand the physics of prayer, then this is a being who could advise you on tremendous spiritual levels, not to make you lofty, but to make you as humble as you possibly could, so that you could reach anyone at any level that they would need to be reached, so that
Yeah.
they could hear whatever it is that you were trying to do on a humble spiritual service level.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. So, I want to ask this last question, and where can people find your books? And do you have any advice for young authors?
You can find my books on ghosthelpers.com or tinairwin.com, and they're all available on Amazon in all formats. I would advise authors to spend some time learning a lot about writing, but live a little. Have enough life experience to draw upon, and then love writing. If it's a chore, why are you doing it?
Yes.
My happy place is sitting down and writing, and I'm planning on actually going to that happy place tomorrow. I'm working on another book. So when you are writing, it should bring you great joy, and that energy of joy will infuse your work.
Yes.
Whether you're creating a fascinating story, a mystery, a love story, a comedy, that creative energy, and another element of the creative process is a divine connection. When you are creating, it's a part of being divine yourself. So creating should bring you great pleasure. And when you're smiling and you're writing and you're focused, the energy of your connection and your love of what you're doing will absolutely come through your work.
Yes.
Those are some
Yes.
thoughts.
And that goes for any content. Whether you're podcasting, what I host, I think somewhere around 8 different podcasts myself personally, through my media company. And I can tell you the number one thing that I tell everybody is when you decide to write or to do a podcast, pick a topic that you're passionate about. Don't worry about how many people are going to listen and when you're going to monetize it and how much money you're going to make from it. None of that stuff matters. It's the passion that's going to drive you through the hard times and the times when you just don't feel like doing it. That's going to make you get up and do it. And if you don't care about it and you're not passionate about it, your listeners or your readers are going to sense that, and it's going to spill right through your content. So you are 100% correct. passion is what it takes, and the rest, it falls where it falls, you know.
Yeah, I love writing. And then when you go through the editing process, you have to grit your teeth
Yes.
and accept maybe there is a slightly better way. I'm
Yep.
not a huge fan of Chat GPT because I think it wicks away the creativity of the author.
Yes. You know, it's okay for grammar, right? If you want to use it for grammar, but you have to be careful allowing it to use word choices and things like that, because exactly what you said, it's gonna erase your voice and put it into a generic format. And that's the same with any. That's not just Chat GPT. That's Claude. That's any of these places. Um, that technology is just not there yet to where you can say, "Hey, write a beautiful story," and it's just going to become the next Stephen King novel. It doesn't have that human aspect or the passion or the drive that spills through it. That's not there yet. Maybe someday. I don't know where AI will end up going, but um, right now it is very generic, and you can tell a song, a book, anything that's completely done by AI, you can tell it when you read it. So
That's also
absolutely.
true for Audible. Audible now is moving into AI voices. And so they asked me because I had two books that I hadn't quite finished. And in the space of, I don't know, maybe in, an hour, I could have a 461-page book in Audible all done.
Yeah.
I, and instead of the 3 months that it took me. But the 3 months that it took me, my voice has a frequency. So when you're hearing any book that I've written, you're hearing and feeling and experiencing my frequency. And that carries a certain amount of spiritual weight
Yeah.
because you're also feeling and hearing the creativity that I put into it. That's true of every author who actually does their own audiobooks. It's your voice. Don't give that away.
I agree. I agree 100%. Well, Miss Irwin, I appreciate you coming on the show and telling everybody. I'm so glad to see so many people still like writing. You know, the world hasn't gotten away from books yet, and that makes me very happy as well. So I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing your story. For all my listeners, make sure you go and pick up her book. We're going to have all the links in the bottom for you. I will put some direct links directly to her book if you'd like to purchase it. You know, that's one of the best ways to help authors continue to keep writing, as well as you to keep learning. So I appreciate all of y'all. Thank you. Have a great day. And don't forget, spend some time reading today.
You've been listening to Authors After Action, a podcast from the Barracks Media Network. Thanks to our guest for sharing their story, and thank you for listening. You can explore more conversations like this across the Barracks Media Network. We'll see you next time.